Hello and welcome to Voices of Our Youth. My name is Toby Warren. Thanks for joining us. Our youth hold the future in their hands. In a few years, they'll be electing politicians, starting businesses, and telling their stories. Their words will echo throughout society as they find their voice. But we cannot just wait for them. We have to be listening now as they share their ocean of ideas and feelings about our past, present, and future. We must listen to the voices of our youth and the ideas of tomorrow. But to look forward, we must also reflect on our past, as we are so encouraged by Fatima Patel and her journey through the grief of change. Yes, it's possible to experience a wide array of feelings at the same time in our hearts, even all towards the same person. She takes us through her relationship with her brother and what it was like to lose someone she never thought she could.
I close my eyes, engulfing my mind with darkness to give rise to the thoughts trying to surface over the almost deafening screams of my family. When am I ever going to escape this? I whisper to myself silently, tears trickling down my face. All I have ever known love to be was sacrifice. My mother gave up her own happiness for her 25-year-old son who was stuck in a boy's mind. All I have ever known peace to be were the days my brother would spend locked in a room outside because he could not be trusted. The next morning, oblivious to the fact that her world was crumbling around her, my sister jumped up to reach the curtain ties with her tiny little hands and tied them open, allowing the warmth of the sun to cascade into the room and land on my face, forcing my eyes to open. Annoyed, I took the pillow at the foot of the bed and threw it at her, telling her to let me sleep. She took my retaliation as an invitation to jump onto my bed, so I decided to sit up and talk to her. What are you so excited about now? Before she got a chance to answer, I heard my mother arguing with someone over the phone. I got up and tiptoed towards the living room, but I couldn't hear anything. Later that day, my mother came into my room and explained that my brother had to go to a facility. After telling me, she just left the room to allow me to process the news, never having fully explained the reason. At first, I cried because I was worried for my brother, knowing he was almost incapable of caring for himself. But when I thought about it, I realized it would be better for us. We would get to sleep comfortably at night without the threat of our lives being on the line. But I felt guilty for thinking these things because I know that he had no control over himself. But I felt nothing but relief. From then on, we checked on my brother and delivered essentials to him, but he had no impact on our lives. My mother began working harder, making her more irritable, which caused her to take her frustration out on us. I was far from a happy place. After a while, even this life I built to cope with everything started eating at me. On March 8th of 2019, my day went by as a normal day until my mother told me and my sister to come home immediately from school. I waited anxiously in the living room, my brain overwhelmed by all the possibilities. My mother walked through the door, and I read her face before she even opened her mouth. My brother had died in a car wreck. It took me a while to process the news, and I had no idea how to react. My body began shaking uncontrollably, and my legs gave out beneath me. Muffled voices began to overcome my mind as I opened my eyes to a cold sensation on my skin. My mother was rubbing ice on my forehead as I had everyone repeatedly asking me if I was okay. It took me a few minutes until I finally regained my senses, and then it hit me. I shed not a single tear, but the thoughts that overcame my mind in that moment was a feeling I would never forget. I sat in my room all alone, staring at the ceiling. I appeared as though I was numb, but my brain wouldn't stop. Make it stop, make it stop, I screamed to myself as millions of thoughts began eating at me. The days I pondered on how much better life would be if he left. The days I ignored his phone calls because he was too annoying for me. The days I took him for granted. Every single day of my life, I took him for granted, wasting the borrowed time we're all living on this earth. Months and months went by where the only thought that crossed my mind was him. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed all day, reliving the day over and over and over again, like I was sinking into my mind with a rock tied to my feet. Everyone seemed to have gotten over it while I was still withering my life away, rotting under my sheets. Fast forward 3 years, and I can finally make sense of it all. My brother was a wonderful person, and a day does not pass without him crossing my mind, which is much more than I can say for when he was alive. When I had the opportunity to let him know he was loved, I squandered it, and to this day, it is my biggest regret. The depression and pain I went through after my beloved brother's death is a pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
It takes great bravery to reflect on what was and what could have been with those who have left us. But it is something that we all must do one day or another. Grief is a process that we work through and evolve with, just as the world evolves around us. And as that world races forward, what will drive us to the finish line? Kenneth Walcott explores the revolution occurring under the hood of the automotive industry.
Petrol engines, the head of automotive technology, being founded many years ago and simply being enhanced since. Is it time for them to go? Is it time for a new enhancement? Is it time to go all electric? These cars have characterized every vehicle, from the quiet family SUVs to the loud, aggressive supercars. With the final enhancement, these engines will surrender. We will now answer to the new electric motor. No longer will a purring engine's note be heard as the corresponding car comes. Instead, it will pass as you struggle to hear its silent hums. We may now give our condolences to the in-depthly designed gearbox, clutch, and exhaust, as we raise the battery to be mature and large. On the interior, no more buttons, instead a screen where you'll surely find the car's charge. Pressing the pedal and steering the wheel, in some cars this is no longer so. You no longer have control to simply go. Problems may emerge, this technology may fail, and with the car in full control, no one is directly responsible. Do we really want this enhancement being all electrical? This isn't something to fear. As with every car, there is a newer model and a newer quirk. This is simply evolution. It is time for the petrol engine to go. It is time for that final enhancement. It is time to go all electric.
Evolution, it certainly is. After the electric motor, who knows what will be next in changing how we get around? And just as engines undergo their own evolution, so too must our mindsets. When the storms of life rage around us, a safe harbor is all most of us would ask for. But Micah Grosvenor shares his thoughts on these supposed happy places.
Happy place. Go to your happy place. Now, we've all heard this saying before. You're stressed, mind at war with your body, in a position of vulnerability, insecurities, clawing at your sanity. It feels like labor. You're unable to conform to societal norms and stereotypical standards or behavior. You run in an attempt to flee to a place you are free from your tormentor, confiding in someone else, praying that they can be your savior. And they say, you got this, just go to your happy place. But what is a happy place? Do I even have one? Is it a physical place to go when I'm sad and feel all alone, or just a blank area of my imagination? Is it an actual place to get away when I feel life just isn't worth living? An area I can go and question why the world is so unforgiving? Or do I stay where I am and retreat into my mind, block out the sights and sounds of the world and leave it all behind? Well, no matter where your happy place may be, let's make one thing clear. Your peace of mind is too important for you to be living in doubt and fear. We've all got one life to live, and I don't plan to waste it. Because let's face it, you were meant for greatness. So embrace it, and I practice what I preach. Grab the bull by the horns, ignore those who fill your ears with disdain and scorn. Make your happy place every place, and rise with a smile each and every morn.
We all only have one life indeed, and should not allow a happy place to hold us back. We must instead make the world our own to live in. Nonetheless, when we have to struggle against our own mind, that can be a greater challenge than many of us think we can handle. In the face of such turmoil, Davari Springer Lewis shares an important reminder for all of us.
You matter. I know you think you don't, but you do. You feel worthless, you're searching for a purpose, and you're trying to find you, and you don't know what to do because you're lost. Lost in your thoughts and feelings, wishing that your heart stops beating, so then you stop eating and you start retreating because you don't want to face the pain. So you'd rather hurt than hurt. As ironic as it seems, you prefer for the blood, not the tears to stream, because all this time it's been your dream to find a way to ease the pain. So you pick up the knife. Of course, it's not to end your life, but just to make that little slice, and in the moment you feel nice. But no, it's all you do. Stressed? Another cut, brand new, and you know you can't reveal the truth because everyone would laugh at you, right? You're not ready for that confession. They'd say it's a cry for attention or an important obsession, but I say these people need to be taught a lesson. That it's not about attention, and hurting yourself isn't the intention, but it's just hard for you to mention your true feelings. Everything you've been through, hurt and anger lingering within you, times you had no one to turn to, but they thought it was simple. They don't know how it is. You've lost your will to live, and you're just a kid, but God forbid that you give in to the fear. See, there's people out there who really do care, but now you're asking, where? See, the reason you don't know is because a long time ago, you forgot how to show how you truly feel. And I'm here to say that you should put down the blade and let us come to your aid. Although hope starts to fade, don't leave us in the shade when fate can be remade, because remember, you matter.
We all matter. It is important that we continue to be that hand extended to members of our communities, offering them that much-needed help. In offering that help, we must of course contend with the ongoing issue of drugs in the communities we call home. Drugs in our communities is an issue that attracts many voices on all sides of the matter. Anari Grenville discusses the medical issues that follow closely on the heels of drug addiction.
Drug abuse, drug misuse. Call it what you will, but it is one and the same. Whatever you call it, drug abuse is a patterned use of a drug in which a user consumes the substance in amounts or with methods which are harmful to themselves or others. While drug abuse has impacted the lives of our young people significantly, this dreadful practice is not only seen in our young people. There are many older persons who have fallen prey to this scourge. There is no doubt drug abuse affects persons physically in many different ways. According to the Starlight Recovery Center in Austin, Texas, some drugs, especially those like crystal meth, can change one's appearance. It is noted that persons who consume drugs like meth do not feel hungry and therefore do not eat. Consequently, they end up being very thin and unhealthy. When this occurs, an individual may appear to be as many as 20 years older than he or she really is. Little black stubs, misshaped gums, and exposed roots. That is the result of meth mouth, the effect of methamphetamine on the teeth's enamel. Drug abuse also damages the liver and destroys the immune system, making it extremely difficult for the body to fight off infection. This misuse may also increase a user's heart rate and the body temperature to the extent that the brain can be damaged, which may also result in a stroke or even death. We were blessed with beautiful bodies. Why then do people try to destroy it through the abuse of drugs? Research shows that some drugs can give you a high, which may come in several forms, including the whetting of the appetite and having a false perception of time. The website WebMD notes that those that stimulate the hunger trick the brain into believing that it is famished when it is not. An abuser who experiences this may single-handedly devour an entire pizza. Chronic use of some drugs can lead to long and short-term changes in the brain, thus causing mental health issues. According to the Starlight Recovery Center in Austin, Texas, paranoia, depression, anxiety, aggression, and hallucinations fall into this category. This source also indicated that many persons addicted to drugs are subsequently diagnosed with other mental disorders. Too many of our young people have adopted a negative lifestyle. They have turned to the compulsive, excessive, and self-damaging use of habit-forming drugs. This has led to dependence, serious psychological harm, and/or death. Any one of us can become an abuser. Do not let it be you or me.
We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves healthy. We must not fall victim to the self-sabotage of drug addiction, and we also have to be there to help those at risk. It will be a struggle to combat addiction, but our history has been filled with struggles that we have overcome. It has been a continuous struggle against injustice. Shannon Ford shines a light on the harsh but heroic fight that's seen us come so far in our history.
The hunt for blood. Branded, tossed, someone seems to be at a loss. Languid thoughts birth the languid demeanors, blinded by white-black tissue, scorched by black-white hearts. Anger only being fueled by tan lies of a better living, a better source for giving what is needed. What is needed is the freedom of the mind. Tortured with the blurry eyes of desperation, a mother's loving tears seep with the glaring blares of flames, flames that wish for more, more to eat, more to defeat. Each baby's grasp on the father's words, dying curses allowing it to curb the winded lungs, aimed guns. No one seems to run. This is what they considered fun. The hunt for blood. Blood they thought as cursed, ugly, worthless. The color of your skin determined your crime, a crime so heinous that your value was based on. And so, the riots, the rebellions, they begun. There was no more fun in the sun. All you could do was escape. Escape the cage given on a rusty bronze platter. Escape the place nurtured by a mother's nature. Although, not always was it in your favor, most often searched for a savior. Soon, the bullies met their makers. No longer could they be the greedy takers. Those sullied, torn, damaged, broken by the cracks of a whip. The courageous stood tall. The giants began to fall. The neglected declared all victory. But was it really?
Much blood and tears have been shed to take us to where we are today. But of course, the fight for a better future is never truly finished. And in this admirable fight, Barbados has produced no shortage of inspirational figures. And to hear a man chooses to honor the courageous efforts of Barbados's black women who have helped to shape the very world we live in.
The historical achievements of black women, such as Shirley Chisholm and Kamala Harris, both political firsts in a post-colonial America, are empowering for black women worldwide. However, our Barbadian women have done equally well. Barbados has produced some of the most outstanding female leaders in politics, medicine, law, and various disciplines. Women have made groundbreaking advances in many areas and have led with grace and excellence in traditionally male-dominated domains. Therefore, based on historical evidence, black Barbadian women demonstrated their internal locus of control, never surrendering to the siege of external pressures, such as gender subordination, affected by the structural barriers characterized by sexism and racism. Within the political arena, Mia Amor Motley, our current Prime Minister and leader of the oldest political party in the English-speaking Caribbean, the Barbados Labour Party, has the distinction of being the country's first female to hold that office after defeating the opposition by 30-0. Our current president, the Most Honourable Dame Sandra Mason, was the first female to be appointed Judge of the Court of Appeal 2008 and the first female magistrate as an ambassador from Barbados. Barbadian-born and Barbados Gold Crown of Merit recipient, Dr. Velma Scantlebury started her secondary school education here. She became the first black female transplant surgeon in America. History could not restrain her. Notably, the aforementioned Shirley Chisholm attended Vauxhall Primary School in Barbados. She became the first black female elected to the U.S. Congress and the first female and African American to seek the nomination for presidency of the United States. Slavery demanded much. Research shows that enslaved black women emerged from inhumane work on sugar plantations and humiliating forced prostitution to penetrate the male-dominated professional spaces, which redefined the black woman's role in society. This indomitable spirit survived the ashes of slavery through harbingers like Nanny Grigg, who led as a black woman the struggle during the early 19th century. One research article posited, the battles over progress were fought on the plantations, in the streets, in the courts, in the legislative councils, and wherever blacks recognized sites to effect change. Much has been done by women's groups and organizations in the gender equality fight and the need to legitimizing the need for change. As a young black female, my opinion is that racial diversity will result from our persistent agitation for change within a multicultural society like ours. We must fight on.
We have a veritable hall of heroines here, and there is always room for more. No matter what challenges appear in the way, we'll always have a new groundbreaker ready to rise to the occasion. These groundbreakers are sorely needed, as our globe is divided into 195 borders. Much of it has only recently come into independence from European colonialism. Yours truly argues that through collective action, these states can truly shape their future. From the 16th century to the mid-20th century, the Caribbean was almost entirely colonized by the imperialist powers of Europe. In that time, our islands generated wealth beyond measure for the empires of France, Spain, Britain, and the Netherlands. Our economies were entirely devoted to the production of cash crops, including cocoa, sugar, and spices. That wealth was shipped back to Europe, and with it, they built empires that subjugated billions of people from around the world. They also used that wealth to develop their own economies, creating industries that turned their countries into the largest manufacturers in the world. Eventually, the wealth of their colonies allowed them to move beyond manufacturing, and they became the world's financial hubs, with Europe becoming host to the banks that to this day control trillions of dollars in currency and assets around the world. Now, the Caribbean and the rest of the world have escaped the darkness of colonialism. This cannot be seen clearer than in Jamaica in the 1970s, when their economy was thrown into recession and chaos as a result of the policies that their government was forced to adopt by the IMF, and they were turned into a source of cheap labor and guaranteed profits for the multinational corporations of Europe and North America. Others around the world have experienced the same treatment, as Argentina currently faces down a debt crisis, and Barbados is barely managing to stave off the same fate. So what can we do? We were put at a massive disadvantage through centuries of colonialism and exploitation, and the financial institutions of the world are built on the very exploitation we are attempting to recover from. So what options do we have for finding new ways into the future? We have each other. We have hundreds of countries from around the world that have experienced the same patterns of domination that we have. We need to be there for each other, invest in each other, create stronger bonds, and promote resilience among each other. In the Caribbean, we are building this framework through CARICOM, but we must not stop there. We need to reach out in every direction, to South and Central America, where we can find others that have been used as sources of cheap fruits and cheap labor for centuries. We must reach across the Atlantic to the countries of Africa, which have had their people and natural resources stripped from them for centuries. They have untold wealth in their borders, and we must come together to ensure that their resources are not stolen from them in the future. We must turn to the Pacific, where there are many other small island developing states recovering from colonialism. We must join with all of Asia, which is entering the 21st century stronger than ever. In this new century, we must stand in solidarity with the billions of citizens from across the decolonized world, and together we can build a bright new future for all of us. As we navigate the world, we must always remember that there is strength in unity. Cooperation is the way for us to build a new future where no one must be left behind. Thanks to my fellow contributors for their stirring words. This is simply a drop of the untapped reserves sitting in the hearts and heads of our youth. Their ideas will be shaping the future, so it is essential that we listen now or be left scrambling to catch up. This has been Voices of Our Youth. I'm Toby Warren. Thanks for your time.